There is a quiet law at work inside every life, and most people never see it. They watch outcomes arrive, and they call it luck. They blame the world, they blame timing, they blame the past, they blame other people. But the truth is simpler and far more sobering. Your life follows the direction of your dominant thoughts, not the thoughts you claim to believe in, not the thoughts you post, not the thoughts you speak when you're trying to sound strong, the thoughts you return to when no one is watching, the thoughts that shape what you tolerate, the thoughts that decide what you pursue, the thoughts that whisper what you are allowed to have. James Allen wrote about this with a clarity that still lands today. We do not drift into a life by accident. We drift into it by habit. And when the habit becomes invisible, the drift feels like fate. So here is the question that matters. What has your mind been building without your permission? Because thought is not just something you have. Thought is something you plant. And whatever you plant in the mind, you eventually harvest in your character. And character, in time, becomes circumstance. This is not a motivational slogan. It is a cause and effect relationship. A mind repeatedly occupied with resentment begins to look for reasons to resent. A mind repeatedly occupied with fear begins to find threats everywhere. A mind repeatedly occupied with self-respect begins to refuse what once felt normal. A mind repeatedly occupied with purpose begins to simplify the noise and move. That is why small thoughts are not small. They are seeds, and seeds do not announce themselves when they enter the ground. They announce themselves later, when the harvest appears. If you've ever wondered why you keep returning to the same patterns, same stress, same conflicts, same missed chances, this is the place to look. Not at the surface details, not at the latest event, but at the unseen inner direction. Because the mind does not merely react to life, the mind selects life. It selects what you notice. It selects what you interpret. It selects what you remember. It selects what you expect. And expectation shapes behavior. Behavior shapes results. So today, we're going to do something practical and calm. We're going to bring the inner mechanism into the light. Not with force, not with shame, not with dramatics, with awareness. Because once a pattern is seen clearly, it loses its power to hide. And if you're listening right now, you already have proof that this matters. Think of a moment when your mood changed, not because anything changed outside you, but because your interpretation changed. One new thought. And suddenly the same situation felt different. That's the law in miniature. Now expand it. Imagine what years of repeated thought can do. Imagine what years of repeated thought have already done. Here's the turning point. You don't need to control every thought. You don't need to win every mental battle. You don't need to become perfect. You only need to become deliberate, because the mind is either being trained or being used, and the direction of your life is being chosen, quietly, by whichever influence is stronger. As we go, I want you to consider one simple question and hold it gently in your awareness. What thought do you return to most often? Not once in a while, not on your best day, most often. If a thought has been running in the background for months or years, it has been shaping you. And if it has been shaping you, it has been shaping what you allow, what you avoid, what you attempt, and what you postpone. If one idea hits you as we go, one line that feels like it's describing something real, consider leaving a comment with the single word that best describes what you're noticing: fear, pressure, doubt, anger, distraction, purpose, calm, whatever is true for you. Not for performance, for clarity. Because clarity is the first step toward change, and the first proof of clarity is honesty. Now let's move deeper into the structure. James Allen framed it in a way that's hard to forget. Your mind is like a garden. A garden will grow something. If you don't choose the seed, weeds choose themselves. And the weeds don't ask permission. They grow through neglect, through repetition, through distraction, through exhaustion, through "I'll deal with it later." The good news is not that life becomes easy. The good news is that the garden can be tended, and the first act of tending is to see what has been planted. So let's name the hidden architecture: cause and effect. Thought is the cause, character is the effect, circumstance is the final result. This is why it feels slow. A thought rarely changes your life in a day, but it changes your direction. And direction, over time, changes everything. So if you want a different life, the first question is not, what do I need to do? The first question is, what am I repeatedly agreeing with inside my mind? Because whatever you repeatedly agree with becomes normal. Whatever becomes normal becomes your standard. And your standard becomes your life. Let's talk about how this agreement forms, quietly, and how to reverse it, calmly, without drama. Most people believe their problems begin on the outside. They believe the pressure comes from the schedule, from other people, from money, from the world, from the past, and those things can be real. But James Allen would ask you to look one step earlier. Before the pressure became emotion, what was the thought? Because the mind interprets and the body follows. A thought lands. The body tightens. The mood darkens. The day narrows. And after enough repetition, you stop noticing the thought. You only notice the feeling. And once you only notice the feeling, you assume the feeling is you. But it isn't you. It's a pattern. This is the beginning of freedom. You are not your passing thoughts. You are the one who can observe them. And observation is not passive. Observation is power. Because what you can observe, you can question. And what you can question, you can change. Now here's the part that is uncomfortable, but helpful. If your mind has been rehearsing the same inner story for years, it will feel true, even when it's destroying your peace. The mind does not reward truth. The mind rewards repetition. That's why a person can repeat a fearful idea so many times that it feels like wisdom. That's why a person can repeat a resentful idea so many times that it feels like justice. That's why a person can repeat a hopeless idea so many times that it feels like realism. Repetition creates familiarity. Familiarity creates belief. Belief creates behavior. So if we want to change the direction, we start with the simplest move. We interrupt the automatic agreement. Here are 3 common agreements that quietly shape lives. First, this is just who I am. This sounds harmless, but it freezes growth. It turns a habit into an identity. It turns a chapter into a destiny. Second, it won't work for me. This one protects the ego from disappointment, but it also prevents the attempt that would produce evidence. Third, I'll start when I feel ready. This one sounds responsible, but readiness is often a mood, and moods change. Discipline is not a mood, it's a decision. James Allen would tell you, the mind becomes what it habitually thinks, which means your inner life is training you every day, even when you're not trying. So what do we do with this? Not 100 techniques, not complicated systems. We do something small and repeatable. We choose one anchor thought and practice returning to it. An anchor thought is not a fantasy, it's a direction. For example, I can meet this moment calmly. I will not add fear to the future. I can do the next right step. I can be steady. I choose clarity over noise. The words themselves don't matter as much as the function. The function is this. You are training your mind to return to the driver's seat. Now notice something important. You don't have to fight every negative thought. Fighting can make it louder. Instead, you do what a skilled person does. You redirect. If your mind says, this is going to go wrong, you don't panic. You say, that's one prediction. I'm going to focus on what I can do now. If your mind says, I'm behind, you don't collapse. You say, I'm here, I'm moving, I'm building. If your mind says, people always disappoint me, you don't harden. You say, I can choose my boundaries without choosing bitterness. This is not positive thinking. This is disciplined thinking. And disciplined thinking produces a disciplined character. A disciplined character creates better decisions. Better decisions create a better life. Cause, effect, quietly. Now, let's make it even more practical. Take one recurring mental habit you've noticed in yourself, just one. Maybe it's catastrophizing, maybe it's replaying conversations, maybe it's self-criticism, maybe it's distraction, maybe it's, I'll do it later. If one comes to mind right now, that's not random. That's awareness working. Now here's the exercise. When the habit appears, name it softly. Fear story. Replay. Self-attack. Delay. Noise. Don't dramatize it, don't hate it, just name it, because naming it separates you from it. And the moment you separate from it, you can choose again. If you want to take part in this session, choose one word you're working on, just one, and leave it in the comments. Not a long explanation, just the word. That one small action helps anchor the decision, and it also helps other people realize they're not alone in this. Now let's move into how thought shapes character and why character is the real turning point for results. Character is the bridge between inner life and outer life. People often chase results first. More money, more success, more respect, more confidence, more peace. But James Allen's framework is that results are downstream. The upstream source is character. And character is not something mysterious. Character is the collection of your repeated choices. What you choose when you're tired, what you choose when you're stressed, what you choose when you're tempted to quit, what you choose when no one is watching. Those choices are not random. They are guided by your most rehearsed thoughts. So if you want to understand where your life is heading, look at the thoughts that feel automatic. Look at what your mind says yes to without discussion. Now, the modern world has a problem that James Allen didn't face in the same way: constant stimulation. Your attention is being pulled in 1,000 directions, and a distracted mind cannot build a strong character. It can only react, and reaction creates a life that feels chaotic, even when nothing dramatic is happening. So one of the most powerful things you can do, especially in today's world, is to become a person who can hold attention steady, not forever, not perfectly, but deliberately. A steady attention creates a steady mind. A steady mind creates a steady character, and a steady character creates trust in yourself. Now here is the difference between wishing and building. Wishing says, I hope I become disciplined. Building says, I will practice discipline in small ways. Wishing says, I want peace. Building says, I will remove what destroys peace. Wishing says, I want confidence. Building says, I will keep promises to myself. This is the secret. Confidence is not a feeling you wait for. It is a result you earn from your own consistency. So let's make a simple model. Every day, your mind moves in one of two directions: toward control or toward drift, toward clarity or toward noise, toward deliberate choice or toward automatic impulse. And the direction is decided by what you practice. Practice doesn't mean long hours. Practice means repetition. If you practice checking your phone every time you feel discomfort, you are practicing escape. If you practice avoiding hard conversations, you are practicing weakness. If you practice blaming, you are practicing helplessness. But if you practice the pause, just a pause, you are practicing mastery. The pause is the space where you stop being a passenger. One breath, one moment, one choice. That is how character is built. Not in huge speeches, but in small moments. Now, the mind will resist this at first. That's normal, because the mind likes what is familiar, even when it's painful. So when you try to change direction, you may notice a strange feeling: discomfort. Discomfort is not a sign you're failing. Discomfort is often a sign you're leaving the old pattern. So here's a practice you can use today. When you feel a strong emotion rising, anger, fear, panic, shame, say to yourself, this is energy. I can shape it. Then ask, what would a steady person do next? Not a perfect person, a steady person. Would a steady person send that message? Would a steady person keep arguing? Would a steady person keep scrolling? Would a steady person postpone again? Steady people do not eliminate emotion. They guide action. And guided action becomes guided character. Now let's tie this directly to circumstance. Your circumstances are often the result of what you tolerated, what you avoided, what you pursued, what you repeated. Those four things are controlled by your inner direction. So changing thought is not about feeling better. It's about living differently. It's about stepping into a different set of choices. And once your choices change, your life changes. It might not change immediately on the outside, but the direction changes immediately on the inside. And direction is the beginning of the new life. If this is landing for you, here's a simple reflection question. What is one small thing you've been tolerating that you know is slowly shaping you? It could be a habit, a relationship pattern, a standard you've lowered, a promise you keep breaking to yourself. Just notice it. No shame. Just notice it. Because once you notice it, you can decide what kind of person you are becoming. Now, let's close with a calm plan, something you can actually carry into the next week without needing motivation to be high. Here is the calm plan. Not a dramatic reset, not a personality change overnight. A simple structure that trains the mind towards steadiness. Step 1. Choose your direction in one sentence. This sentence is not for the world. It's for you. Examples. I choose clarity. I choose self-respect. I choose discipline. I choose calm strength. I choose focus. Pick one. Keep it simple. The simpler it is, the easier it is to return to. Step 2. Identify your most common drift. Drift is what happens when you're not deliberate. For many people, drift is overthinking, doom scrolling, self-criticism, avoidance, numbing with distraction. Don't list 10. Choose one. Name it. Step 3. Create a single interrupt. An interrupt is a small action you do when the drift appears. Examples. 1 slow breath before reacting. Stand up and drink water. Write one sentence. What is the next right step? Put the phone down for 5 minutes. Walk to a different room and reset. The point is not the action itself. The point is training. I notice drift and I return. Step 4. Keep one promise daily. One promise. Small, because keeping promises to yourself is how self-trust is built, and self-trust is the foundation of quiet confidence. Examples. 10 minutes of focused work, 5 minutes of reading, a short walk, one difficult conversation you've been avoiding, writing one paragraph, cleaning one small area. Not to impress anyone, to prove to yourself that you can lead your mind. Now here is the most important idea James Allen gives us. You don't rise by wishing, you rise by refining. And refinement is a daily practice. It's a willingness to remove what is weakening you. It's a willingness to add what strengthens you. You don't need to solve your entire life this week. You only need to keep turning the ship. 1 degree today, 1 degree tomorrow. And over time, you arrive somewhere completely different. That's not inspiration. That's navigation. Now, let's end with a thought that is both honest and empowering. The world will not become less noisy. Distraction will not become less tempting. Life will not always be convenient. So the advantage belongs to the person who can stay steady anyway, the person who can hold attention, the person who can direct thought, the person who can keep small promises, the person who can choose a calm next step. That person becomes powerful, not loud, not aggressive, not arrogant, quietly powerful, and that is the kind of power that lasts. Before you go, consider one question. What is one thought you are willing to stop rehearsing? Not because you're denying reality, but because you're tired of paying for it. And what is one thought you are willing to rehearse instead? One direction, one anchor, one steady return. If you want, you can leave a short comment with your anchor word: clarity, discipline, calm, focus, self-respect, whatever you chose today. It's a simple way to mark the decision, and it helps this reach the people who are looking for the same kind of steadiness. And remember, the mind becomes what it repeatedly holds, so hold something worthy, and let the rest fall away.